What would have happened if the Nazis had won World War II? Nazi Germany's victory in World War II would have marked a radical shift in world history. Here we explore three scenarios for how our present might have been altered had the Nazis triumphed. The most likely scenario would be the establishment of a global totalitarian regime and extreme social control. In this scenario, a Nazi victory would mean the expansion of its totalitarian and racist ideology throughout much of Europe, with the possibility of imposing its control in North America and other regions of the world. Daily life would be marked by strong state surveillance, where individual freedoms would be severely restricted and the government would use propaganda and fear to maintain its power. Democratic institutions would have disappeared, and Nazi control would encompass education, culture, and the media. The economy would likely be focused on military production and maintaining control over conquered territories, with little innovation in other sectors. If you're enjoying this alternative history exploration, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next videos. Thank you for your support, and let's continue with the next scenarios. The second scenario would be a Cold War type scenario between the Third Reich and the Japanese Empire. In this second scenario, a Nazi victory would not have meant the end of the conflicts, but rather the beginning of a tense global rivalry. After winning the war in Europe, the Nazis could have found a new rival in Japan, their ally in the Axis. The world would be divided into two spheres of influence: Europe and parts of Africa under Nazi control, and Asia dominated by Japan. This Cold War between the Third Reich and the Japanese Empire would have created a situation of constant tension, with both powers trying to expand their influence and maintain a balance. In this world, technological advances would have continued in a military and competitive context, without the democratic values that we know. The third and least likely scenario would be a global resistance and subsequent fall of the Nazi regime. In this third scenario, a Nazi victory would have been temporary, and resistance by populations in Europe and elsewhere would have triggered internal conflicts within the Third Reich. Resistance movements would have emerged both in Europe and in the occupied territories, creating conflicts that would wear down the regime in the long term. Internal discontent, combined with pressure from resistance groups, could have led to an eventual fragmentation or collapse of the regime, leaving a world devastated by conflict but with the possibility of reconstruction. Conclusion: if the Nazis had won World War II, our reality would be bleak and marked by a lack of freedoms. Extreme control of society, divisions of power between authoritarian empires, or continuous resistance would have shaped a present radically different from the current one. The world as we know it, based on values of democracy and human rights, would not exist in the same way, and Nazi influence would be evident in almost every aspect of daily life. What do you think? What do you think our current reality would be like if the Nazis had won the war? Which of these scenarios seems most likely to you, or can you think of any other possibilities? Leave us your comments and tell us what you think. In the next video, we'll explore another interesting question: what would have happened if Columbus hadn't discovered America? Don't miss it!